Hey, this is Kari. Thank you for joining me for the Luminous Recovery Yoga Podcast. I'm so happy that you joined me today, friend. It's really nice to be in your presence. So let's see, week 5 of the Luminous Recovery Yoga Podcast. And thank you to you for listening. It really means a lot to share this time with you. So, you're with me on this journey as things progress. And today was a good day. And it was actually a really good week. I'm feeling pretty good. And that's nice. It's nice to have some reprieve from what has felt like a really hard time. It's really nice to feel like, there is a break in what feels like a string of misery. There is a break. And it's really nice to know that this too shall pass. And even though while things are happening, sometimes I just don't really believe it, this too shall pass. And that's a real relief. So today I want to talk about something that I've heard in the rooms of recovery. And it's something that I've really considered a lot over the years, and that is this idea of right sizing. Right sizing. Right sizing to me is accepting myself as a person, as a human being, a person with limitations, a person with boundaries, a person who, I'm not perfect. I am exactly as I am, exactly as I am meant to be. And, where this really comes in for me with right sizing is when I first joined the rooms of recovery. I really, on the one hand, I had this terrible self-esteem. It was really low self-esteem. And my image of myself was that I was shit, actual shit. And yet, on the other side of that, I was also the center of the universe. I was important, and everything that I was doing was very important. And I wanted to help people because, I do things the correct way. And there was just a lot of emphasis on me being right and me being really the best at what I was doing as a way to kind of cover up the fact that I felt like shit all the time. So, while there may have been this outer appearance of confidence of sorts, really it was just a way to compensate for the fact that I felt like shit all the time. So when I came to the rooms of recovery and I started hearing this idea of right sizing, it's finding myself somewhere in the middle. It's that constant, I don't really love the word balance because I feel like it's really loaded. But it's finding myself somewhere in the middle where I am not the greatest piece of shit on the planet, but I also am not the center of the universe. If I can't make a party or I can't help with, your errands or whatever it is, like it's not going to be the end of the world. Like I am not responsible for everything. I'm not responsible to make sure that, everything turns out okay for everybody, myself included. So there was this real emphasis on feeling like shit, but then using outer appearances to make myself and others believe that I'm fine, I've got this all figured out, all good. And what I know is that none of that was true. I didn't have anything figured out. My self-esteem was in the tank, and yet, there was this real sense of self-importance. And so I've learned somewhere in the middle. Like I've got to land somewhere in the middle of that where I'm neither the greatest piece of shit nor the king shit. I am not the queen poo. I am just a person right here. And so, where does my yoga practice come into that? Because really the purpose of this podcast is for me to explore the intersections of yoga and recovery. So, this is where it all gets really physical for me, because there was this idea of right sizing. And I thought, wow, this is a great idea. And at the same time that I was getting into the rooms of recovery, I was starting my yoga practice. And I was starting to feel my physical body, and I was starting to develop this relationship with my physical body. And when I started practicing yoga, I was also on this weight loss journey. It was really a big part of my story at that time. I was 330 pounds. Over the course of about 2 years, I lost 150 pounds, and that was a big deal. It was a big feat. It was something that, as far as like recovery goes, I really believed that when I lost weight, I would just be better. I would be a better person. I would, all the men would want to date me. I would have money. Like I had this idea that once I lost weight, all of the problems that I had in my life would just kind of come together, and all of those things would fall off because now I was skinny. And that was really what I was like. That was the ticket. That was my aim. Like, I will lose this weight and my life will completely, it will come together. And the sad, rude, cruel awakening was that that is not what happened. I lost weight and I was still equally miserable. I still had, problems with men. I still did not feel financially stable. I didn't have any of these promises. But, the reality is I needed to remove that obstacle in order to begin to see myself more clearly. Because at that time, I believed that once I could kick this, particular addiction, this particular, thing that was keeping me down, that then everything else would come into place. And it didn't. It took a lot more work. It took a lot of therapy and recovery and yoga and, I could start listing off all of the things that I've done that have chipped away at the layers. But the reality is it's been a combination of a lot of things. It took a lot to get here. So right sizing, this idea that, when I first entered the rooms of yoga, classrooms, I really had this image of myself as, being like really huge. Like my body is so big and everybody is looking at me and I stick out like a sore thumb. Like I just had all of these ideas about my body being like really, really enormous. And, body dysmorphia, like, and I was in a bigger body, but I wasn't nearly as like huge as I made myself believe. And so I had this really big sense that my body was really, really big. And then over the course of time, I lost weight and my body did begin to morph and shrink and change size. And then I started to feel like just totally different. Like I felt really different in my body, but I was still me. And then I lost 150 pounds and I still didn't feel right sized. I still felt, there was still like this feeling of like, I'm still so big. And, at first I was getting a lot of compliments. Everybody would comment on like, wow, you've lost so much weight. And wow, and once those comments slowed down, like once the weight kind of stabilized and, people stopped saying stuff, I felt really lost. I was like, well, who am I if people aren't constantly, telling me how great I look or that I, wow, you really look like you lost more weight. And I was really relying on that feedback at the time to feel good. And so that also didn't feel right-sized. Because there was still this lack of self-acceptance and really lack of like self-awareness about who I really was and just, what my body was doing. So, when I started practicing yoga every day and really starting to understand the rhythms of my body and like just what it means to live in this body, because I was so dissociated from my body from so long, like a yoga teacher would say, like, pull your front ribs in. And I'd be like, what are ribs? Like my ribs? Whose ribs? Where are the ribs? Like just really no sense of my body and myself and where I was in space. And like, for a lot of my life, I felt really like trapped inside my body. So it just really did not have a sense of myself. So, this idea of being right sized physically and emotionally, physically in my body, like just allowing myself to take up space, allowing myself to, really be in a body and not fretting about that so much. So, as I began to recover physically and spiritually and emotionally, I started to feel this sense of right sizing where suddenly I was not the most important thing, but I also was not the biggest turd. And where I stopped really fretting about whether or not my body felt big or was big, or, like I was living, I was doing the things I needed to do to feel good. And that meant getting to meetings, that meant getting to yoga class. And suddenly I started like having this sense of feeling right sized, of feeling like I could just be just one person living in this world, being me and not having to solve everything or figure everything out. So I want to share some literature. This is Courage to Change. I read this the other day and it really resonated with this right sizing that I've been contemplating this week. So this is August 4th in Courage to Change. It says, I can certainly learn from criticism, and I want to remain open to hearing what others have to say, but neither my popularity nor my ability to please those I live and work with are legitimate measures of my worth as an individual. Recovery helps me to recognize that I have value simply because I breathe the breath of humanity. As I gain self-esteem, I find it easier to evaluate my behavior more realistically. The support I get in recovery helps me to find the courage to learn about myself. As I come to feel at home with myself and my values, my likes and dislikes, my dreams and choices, I am increasingly able to risk other people's disapproval. I am equally able to honor others when they choose to be themselves, whether or not I like what I see. And that reading just really resonates with that desire to, just know myself and be somewhere in the middle. I have value simply because I breathe the breath of humanity. And that also means that so does everyone else. Everyone else also breathes the breath of humanity and is valuable. And when I lose that sense that I am valuable, but so are you, that's when I really lose right size. That's when I really forget my place where I'm supposed to be right here, right now. So, the support that I get helps me find the courage to get to know myself. And the more I get to know myself, the more I can just be here in this body as I am. And right sizing is just me being a human being in today, in this body, breathing this breath right now. And I just get to be right sized. I just get to be me. And the more open I am to learning about who I am, the more serenity I find, the more acceptance I find. So, this idea of right sizing. And so, I wonder what you think about that. Do you feel right sized? Do you feel, like you have an accurate sense of yourself in your head where you are neither the worst or the best, frankly, right? Like there can only be one best, right? And I just want to be me. I don't need to be the best. I just need to be me. I can be the best me some days, but even then that can get into really sticky territory. So right size, that's what I've been thinking about. I just want to be right sized. just know where I start, where I stop, and live in this body as it is today. And, whatever size my body is really doesn't have anything to do with being right sized. It's being me. It's being who I am today. So, yeah, just something I've been thinking about. And, I hope that this resonates with you. And if not, that's okay too. But yeah, just really, thinking about being one person and doing what one person can. And can that be enough today? Even if I didn't figure out all the things I need to figure out, if I didn't get everything done, that today could just be right sized 24 hours and all I can get done in 24 hours. That is feeling right sized when I go to bed at the end of the night and I know I've done everything that I can. That feels right sized. So I hope that resonates. That's what I've been thinking about this week. So, enough about me. Let's talk about you for a minute. And with that, let's transition to a little bit of yoga. Let's do some yoga. It'll be simple yoga. I'm actually sitting right now on a chair. So we'll just keep it chair yoga today. We'll keep it really simple. And, as always, the most important thing that we do in this practice is establish a connection with our breath. Think of it like conscious contact. This is how we make conscious contact with our breath. We start right here with the physical body. So I really invite you to step into your physical body for this really gentle practice. So start by scooting to the edge of your seat. If you're on a chair, move your butt all the way to the edge so that way you can sit upright. And really you're just using the edge of the chair to keep your spine long. So start by putting your palms face down on your thighs and close your eyes. And just start by making conscious contact with your breath. Notice the sound of your breath. Notice the way the breath feels. Gently moving in and out of your body. Lift your shoulders up to your ears. Roll them down your back and then do that again. Shoulders up to the ears. Roll them down and back. One more time. Big lift of the shoulders. Roll them down and back. And then we'll do it the other direction. From the back to the ears to the front. 3 big circles with the shoulders. One more. Good. Now reach the arms up, interlace all 10 fingers, and take a big stretch from your waist all the way through your hands. And look up at the ceiling. Take a big breath in. And a big breath out. And put your hands back on your lap. This time, reach just your left arm up. And stretch your left fingertips over towards the right and look up and underneath your left arm. And then put your left hand on your thigh, reach your right arm up, look up at your fingers and stretch your right arm over to the left and look up and underneath your arm. And put your hand back down on your thigh. Now take your left hand, reach around your head for your right ear, and gently pull your head down towards your left shoulder. We're just lengthening the right side of the neck. And then gently release, slowly return your head back to center. Now take your right hand, reach over the top of your head for your left ear, and gently pull your head down towards your right shoulder. Again, notice the stretch in the left side of your neck. And check in with the breath. And then gently lift your head back up to neutral. Now interlace your hands behind your back. Just make a clasp with your hands behind your back and just gently stretch your knuckles back. Lift your chin up. And press your chest forward to just find some length in the front side of your body. And then gently release your bind. Now drop your chin to your chest and roll your head from side to side. And gently lift your head back up to a neutral position. Keep your right hand on top of your right thigh. Put your left hand on your low back and just gently look behind you over your left shoulder. You can push your right hand into your thigh just to create a little more leverage for the twist. Big breath in. Breath out. And gently come back to center. Now put your left hand on top of your left thigh. Bring your right hand to your low back. And just gently turn and look back past your right shoulder. And slowly come back to center. Put both of your hands on top of your thighs and just gently bow forward. I'm not going to bow forward because I have a desk in front of me right now, but just bow over your legs and let your head fall towards the floor and the upper body just dangle between the legs, just creating a little low back stretch. You can shake your head out, yes and no. And then gently slide your hands back up, come back up to a neutral seat. Once you get back up, reach your arms back up over your head, look up at your fingers, take a full big breath. Put your hands on your thighs, gently bow forward, let your head just hang heavy towards the floor. And shake your head, yes and no. And gently slide back up to a neutral seat. Let's do a little seated hip opener. Catch your right foot and cross it over your left knee. And just a little simple figure 4. Your left foot is on the floor, right ankle on your knee. And just gently let your right knee fall towards the floor a little bit. Just create a little sensation in the hips. Close your eyes. Notice how it feels. It might feel nice to even rock back and forth a little bit. If you notice some sensation that kind of pops up and feels good. Breath in. And breath out. And then gently put your right foot back on the floor and reach for your left foot. Put it on top of your right knee. Cross your ankle to your knee. And just gently let that left knee fall a little bit towards the floor. Notice where you feel the sensation open up in your leg. Notice how it feels. Maybe close your eyes. And just breathe. And gently return your left foot to the floor. Put one hand on each thigh. Sit up tall. And just breathe in and out of your nose for a moment. Put your right hand over the center of your chest and your left hand on your low belly. And just take a moment to notice your hands. Notice the impact of the breath on your hands. And say this to yourself. I have value because I breathe the breath of humanity. I have value because I breathe the breath of humanity. I have value because I breathe the breath of humanity. I have value because I breathe the breath of humanity. Take a big, full, deep breath in. And a slow breath out. One more time, reach your arms up over your head. Take a big, full stretch. Pull your palms to touch at the center of your chest. Close your eyes and just notice how you feel. Draw your thumbs to the center of your forehead and gently bow your head towards your heart. In honor of each one of you and this practice that we share, I bow to you and say namaste. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen and have a little practice with me. If you're enjoying this podcast, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts. reach out to me. Let me know if there's something in particular you want me to talk about. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I really appreciate you. If you want to take a class with me, you can head over to my website and there's a little form on there. Just fill out your email address and your name, and you can come take a free class with me. I'd love to have you in class. Thanks so much. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you next week.